Rampage is the headlining attraction at Alabama Splash Adventure. This is a CCI wood coaster jam-packed with laterals and airtime. There were a few years when this ride's future was in doubt, but it has been running strong for the past decade. And that's a good thing because this is the best wood coaster in the Southeast. I'll explain why in this review. Megaphobia opened at Oakwood Amusement Park in Wales in 1996. This was a Custom Coasters International or CCI wood coaster, and it opened to rave reviews. The attraction claimed the title as the world's best wood coaster in the Mitch Hawker poll in its first 2 years. Riders loved the mix of airtime and laterals. Visionland opened in 1998 in Bessemer, Alabama, roughly 20 miles from downtown Birmingham. The park only opened with one major coaster, but it was a notable one. It would be none other than Rampage. This would be a CCI Woody heavily inspired by Megaphobia. And based on how much I like Rampage, I really want to try Megaphobia someday. The two rides have nearly identical layouts. The profiling was tweaked in sections, but the sequence of elements until the very end matches. This becomes even more impressive when you consider that Megaphobia is on a relatively flat piece of land, while Rampage is on a hill. However, the stats differ mightily between the two rides. Megaphobia stands 85 feet or 26 meters tall. Meanwhile, Rampage stands 120 feet or 37 meters tall. That's a big difference. Rampage also has 20% more track, as it covers 3,500 feet or 1,100 meters, versus Megaphobia's 2,956 feet or 901 meters of track. Rampage opened to similarly great reviews. It joined Megaphobia in the top 5 of the Mitch Hawker poll in its debut year, and in 1999-2000, it also placed in the top 5 of the Amusement Today Golden Ticket Awards. However, it did not operate for long. Visionland went bankrupt in 2002. While the water park reopened that year, all the amusement rides including Rampage were left standing but not operating. Southland Entertainment Group purchased the park in 2003, and the amusement rides once again opened. The park was then renamed Alabama Adventure, and they changed hands again in 2008 to Adrenaline Family Entertainment. Then a company from the former owners of Southland named General Attractions LLC purchased the park in 2012. But they renamed the park Splash Adventure, and they immediately decided to close the amusement section, leaving Rampage to rot. In 2014, the park was purchased by Cook Family Parks, a group headed by former Holiday World CEO Dan Cook and his sister Natalie. The park got an updated name in Alabama Splash Adventure, and the amusement section once again reopened. But Rampage did not. It needed quite a bit of work. The park invested $1 million to restore the attraction. It previewed for ACE members in the fall of that year, and it had its grand reopening in 2015. The coaster has thankfully run ever since. While you can't really see any of this park from the main road or highway, Rampage is impossible to miss once you're through the gates. Not only is this far and away the park's tallest attraction, but it's located on that aforementioned hill. So it looks absolutely massive overlooking the park, especially with that dense wood support structure. Rampage looks similarly as impressive as you approach it. I really like the ride's logo, and there's a nice sign as you approach it. Then the first drop dives directly towards the ride's entry plaza. While much of the ride consists of a double out and back layout, it is pretty tricky to follow because many elements are blocked by the support structure, and the back side of the hill is not publicly accessible. Special thanks to the park for taking me back there to get the footage you see of this section of the ride. Saying this is the best amusement ride at this park is a severe understatement. A large chunk of the dry rides are targeted towards kids. You then have a handful of family rides as well, but nothing else in the caliber of Rampage, both in terms of thrill level and quality. Most people visiting Alabama Splash Adventure spend a majority of their time in the water park. This is great for coaster enthusiasts because Rampage almost never has a line. I have visited this park on a gorgeous summer Saturday, and it was just a 1 to 2 train wait maximum, and that's even with this ride running just a single train. You have the standard 6-car PTC train. Each car has 2 rows of 2, so the train can hold a maximum of 24 riders, but from what I've seen, it will usually go out half full based on the crowd levels this park sees. While the crew can check restraints at a fairly good rate, they tend to wait for anyone in the queue line keep opening the gates to let more people onto the ride. This can lead to gaps in between dispatches if you're trying to get footage. Riders are restrained by a familiar seatbelt and individual lap bar combination. This is par for the course for modern PTC trains. As for which seat you'll want, I recommend trying both the front and second to the back. The latter is my favorite seat in this coaster. You get some good airtime on the ride's largest drops. I would be careful about riding in a wheel seat or the back of a car if possible. While much of the ride is smooth, there are a few rough valleys that I hope the park addresses in the future. One in particular is really bad. And it's possible because Rampage seems to get a chunk of retracking annually. I'll highlight these sections in my element by element breakdown, but they are due for work. Once dispatched, you subtly turn out of the station and ascend the 12-story tall lift hill. At the top, you navigate a 180-degree turn. You can see the backstage area where the park's new for 2024 water slide is being stored, and more notably, you get a stunning view overlooking the park. That initial drop is one of the best of any traditional wood coaster in my opinion. If you're in the back car, you get really nice floater airtime for the first half of the descent. You also have a terrifying visual. The drop pierces through a later turnaround, creating a solid head chopper. Then more notably, you see the track bank left at the bottom, pretty severely too. It sort of has a similar effect to Busch Gardens Williamsburg's old Big Bad Wolf, as it feels like you'll tear through the track. This leftward pullout offers good sustained laterals. It is on the shakier side though if you're in a wheel seat. You then charge over a giant camelback. This is the most sustained airtime moment on the ride by far. Those in front get solid floater and levitate out of their seat for a few seconds. The airtime is not as strong nor sustained in the back, but is still present and enjoyable. Next comes the first turnaround. Up front, you get weak but moderately sustained floater airtime into it. Then the 180-degree turn is minimally banked. It also dips down and up. This leads to decent laterals throughout. I also like how this turn wraps around a giant tree. Then the resultant drop gives a little floater airtime for those in the back. Then comes the worst element on the ride. It is this large and elongated camelback. It is simply too drawn out to offer any airtime. There is a pretty good head chopper on the way down at least, but the subsequent valley is another rough one. Turnaround 2 then wraps around the drop and lift structure. While you won't get any negative Gs here, the laterals are phenomenal. The front gets pushed into the turns, resulting in strong and sudden laterals. Those in back get more sustained lats on the dips, particularly the second one out of the turnaround. Now watch out for the pullout though. As of this recording, this part is brutal. The train is a very noticeable jolt at this point. This part is in dire need of a retrack, and it's the main reason I avoid a wheel seat if possible on this coaster. Next is another camelback. The front has okay but sustained floater airtime. You don't really get any airtime further back on the train though. Then comes another turnaround. No airtime into it, but the turn offers the most intense laterals of the ride. You will be bent over sideways from their power and duration. Then the resultant drop is excellent in the back. It delivers a very strong ejector pop. You are tossed upwards in a similar fashion to the fifth drop on Holiday World's Raven. This is probably my favorite element on Rampage. Immediately afterwards, you have a little speed hill. This element changed mightily as the day progressed. Up front, it had a decent pop in the morning, and good floater by the afternoon. In back, I got a sudden and forceful kink of airtime later in the day. You then hop into turnaround 4, getting some weak floater airtime up front. You then charge through the support structure while getting very strong and sustained laterals. Then comes a surprising drop. Since you plunge back down the hillside, it is larger than you'd expect for a drop so late in a ride, and it offers a nice burst of airtime in the back cars too. The pullout then twists right and oddly is unbanked, so it's another spot of nice laterals, and it was recently retracted so it's thankfully smooth. You then jump upwards into the brakes, getting a smidge of airtime up front, and then you come to a full stop. But the experience is not over yet. You may realize you're still a few stories above the station. When the brakes release, you slowly roll forwards. Then you have one last turnaround. You sharply dip down and up, offering great laterals. Then you have one last drop into the station. You are braked on the way down, so there's no airtime, but you do have a nice head chopper with a tree, and this is a quirky ending you don't get on most rides. how many drop into the station like this? If I were to compare this coaster to any other in the US, I would say it reminds me most of Holiday World's Legend. Both rides have crushing laterals while mixing in some airtime in a fun setting. This allows both rides to maintain good pacing throughout. So what would I rate Rampage? I would give this ride an 8.5 out of 10. This is a very well-rounded wood coaster. I love the ride's placement on the hillside and the resultant views. I also love this ride's forces. The minimally banked turns offer powerful and sustained laterals. Then there are several spots of good airtime as well, particularly in the ride's largest drops in the back car. The only reason I don't rate this ride higher is that the negative Gs were not quite as strong in a few spots as I would have liked, and a few valleys are pretty shaky. But ultimately, this is a great wood coaster if you love CCIs. It is worth noting this ride can warm up considerably as the day progresses, so I would try to ride in the afternoon when people migrate over from the water park if possible. That will give you the best ride. And I do think this is now the best wood coaster in the Southeast. Now technically it only claimed that title because Lightning Rod was converted to a steel coaster, and Swamp Fox regressed to my 2022 rides. But Rampage is still a wonderful and action-packed ride. And before anyone asks, yes, I prefer Rampage to Thunderhead because it offers a more diverse ride experience. So those are my thoughts on Rampage at Alabama Splash Adventure. What are your thoughts on the CCI wood coaster? Do you agree it's the best wood coaster in the Southeast? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.